But then I'll only be teaching 4 classes and not 5 this quarter. So, because Raven used to do one of the WordPress sections, but Raven has left. So, all right. So let me just take roll really quick and then pass this around because some of you may or may not have had me. Those of you that have had me, I'm sorry. Those of you who have not had me, hey, look, you're going to have fun. Trust me. Okay. Natasha. Right, this is section 1, right? 1 p.m. to Natasha should be here. Analia, you're here. Amy, Cho. Danielle, Coulter. Novicio. Hey. Nicole. Sean Gilland. John Gilmer. Kirsten. Liliane. Ayumi. Janine. Tomomi. Emily. Kira. Morris. Joss. Morgan Richmond. Anthony. Han Wang. Anna Wong. So I have Han Wang and then Anna Wong.
I'm Han.
Anna? Anybody? Melissa Wong. Anybody I did not call? So obviously there's room in the class. Okay. So for those of you that I did not call, do you have slips, Michael?
No, I did it online this morning.
Oh, so you registered, you're just not on my list.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll be in there. Okay. So for those of you that have not had me as an instructor, the email addresses on this list are the email addresses that I use for grades. Okay, so please double check that your email address is correct. My special pen. So for those of you that have not had me as well, right? Let's just get this kind of out of. Most everybody has had me, right? Yeah. 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 I've had that guy. But if you have not had me, all my curriculum is here at sccc.premiumdw.com. Note to self, when you are picking domain names, pick wisely. I really wish I would have picked the subdomain students.premiumdw.com, but I did not. There's now no third C in SCCC, because now it's a community at a community college, and now this looks just stupid, right? But if I were to switch over to students dot, then my SEO would take a big hit. That's what's stopping me from doing that. But nonetheless, this is where then I have all my curriculum. You can see that I teach quite a few classes here. I teach one class at UW as well. So if you're coming to this school going through the web design department, you're going to have me at some point or another. Lucky you. I don't use Canvas. That's the one thing that you guys may like, may not like. Instead of using Canvas, I use my own website. Why I don't use Canvas is that I built my own site before Canvas existed. And I asked Lisa, what's the threshold of complaints that we have to reach before they make me use Canvas. And it doesn't seem like, some people don't like it. It's annoying. I get it. I've used Canvas in conjunction with my site in the past, and then there's duplicates of everything. The calendar, it gets to be a pain in the ass to manage. Right now, I am looking for a solution to see if I can integrate Canvas into my WordPress site, right? So maybe down the line, I will be integrating that. But the only thing that I'd really be using Canvas for anyway is the grading. And I do my own grades basically as a spreadsheet and then import them into my site. So if we look at that right now, the grades are still from last quarter. We'll be clearing them out soon. But what you have to do is request a password. You put in your email address, and like I said, the email address that I use for grades is the one that's on my roster sheet. Did you have a question, Sean? I use the one on my roster sheet, right? Which is the email address that you supplied to the college. So if that's the wrong email address, note to yourself, go change that to the college, because that's the one they have and that they think that you want to use. Yeah, so this is how I do the grades through here. It's a little clunky, but whatever, it seems to work. How many of you have checked your grades through my site? Right? Not too big of a pain in the ass, right? It is? Huge pain in the ass? No. No? Okay, good. So, calendar. So, this is where I am this quarter. I have office hours on Monday and Wednesday at 5 p.m. Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. My office is located that should be 3176I, not 3176B. We'll change that. That's what I was looking for. So my office is located down the hall. Does everybody know where the IT office is, IT programs office is, where Lisa is, right? If you're standing at the front door and look at that corner, that's where my office is. If I'm around, I typically have my door cracked. If you need to see me, my door is cracked. Knock, and I shall hopefully help you. Yeah, we had the research class running on Tuesday, Thursday nights, but apparently there was only 13 people signed up for it, and they decided to cancel it. 13, I'm surprised. They're getting a lot tougher on the cancellation with, 13, they usually run it. So I have some talking to do with some people, whatnot. So I have a love-hate relationship with it being canceled. I hate that it was canceled, but I was going to teach 5 classes this quarter, and so now I'm down to a manageable 4. 5 is just a little bit too much. Like I said, this WordPress class, WEB170, has 2 sections in the spring quarter. Did anybody ever have Raven as an instructor? Raven Gilday? Well, he used to teach 1 section of this, and I taught the other. But he has now left Central and is just teaching at Bellevue. And so I guess I'm picking up all WordPress sections, which is, fine with me, just how many hours are there in the day? You know what I'm saying? So contact, if you need to contact me, please start by using this form. Okay? So this form will prepend the email with students, so that I know it is a student. It will not go into my spam. And if it is a student, I try to get back to you in a timely fashion, right? So how many of you have emailed me and I've gotten back to you in a relatively timely fashion? Yay, right? See, I'm perfect.
But I didn't use the form.
You didn't use the form? What'd you use? Just my school email address?
Yeah.
Really? You sneaky little son of a...
I know.
Yeah, good job. So yeah, but if, use this form, please, and it will prepend it with student, and then we can ping back and forth. That's just the best way to do it. As well, I have to change this. Chris Sullivan is no longer the dean. We have been moved under science and math, and now we are the science, technology, engineering, and math department, the STEM division, if you will. So yeah, right? Here's what happened. Chris took the Dean of Workforce, whatever that means, job. So he moved, I'm not sure if he moved up or laterally or whatever. And due to tight budgets, what they decided to do was split up BitCut instead of hiring another dean. Instead of having one dean after another dean after another dean after another dean, we kind of have revolving deans in the BitCut department, if you've ever noticed that. So they split the division up and they put the IT departments in science and math and renamed it Science, Technology, Engineering, Math, which apparently is an acronym that is widely used out there in the college universe. So once I heard that, I was like, oh, maybe this will be a good thing. So Wendy Rockhill is our new dean, so I need to update that. Lisa Sandoval is now, instead of program director, she is now associate dean of STEM. So she's moving on up as well. Michelle De La Rosa is our counselor. So their contact information is there. Right here, the subscribe. This is another thing about me not using Canvas. Please do yourself a favor and subscribe to my website. It is opt-in, opt-out. When you do opt-in, make sure you check for the validation, the acceptance thing, right? It might go in your spam. Gmail hates me these days. I don't know why, but it just does. If I'm sick, right, I will typically send out an email through this system, or sometimes I just do it too. If I'm going to be out for the whole day, right, I'll send it out. Sometimes I send it to just the class, right? But either way, as well, I post a lot of jobs there. I also post a lot of stuff too. If you're not a member of our Facebook group, you might want to join our Facebook group. Oh, look, there's Nicole. So, Perry Wolf is a fake person. I'm not going to tell you who the Perry Wolf is. But yeah, Stoney and I and Brendan post a lot of stuff in here. You can see that Wayne likes everything, and so does Nico, right? So on and so forth. So you might want to join that group. As far as my site, I'm pretty sure that's about all that you need to know about my site. So we are in WEB170, content management systems with WordPress. If you notice, this is out of date. Me and my whole family, we all got sick this last week during spring break. No, I just have to change the dates on that, and then the week by week schedule here is pretty much the same, right? But I just have to change those. Right? We all got some kind of stomach bug. You know what I mean? Did you see my tweet that my toddler had the man flu?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It was pathetic. It was awesome. So anyway, we are in WEB170. So let's kind of go back to the syllabus here. So what is this class? What is this class not? A lot of people have the misconception about WordPress, right? that WordPress is only a blogging platform. Like even in the group the other day, I think Shad was looking for the book to borrow. Stani said that he could borrow the book, and then somebody who's actually not a student but lives in Seattle. If you live in Seattle, I'll let you in the group if you're not a student, because you might become a student, right? Marketing, right? But if you're from overseas or you live overseas, I'm not going to let you in the group or that kind of thing. But he posted something about how why developers hate WordPress. And I hate developers that hate WordPress. Let's say it like that, right? I understand kind of what they mean in terms of if you have a system, you should build it yourself, right? To have a system that does exactly what you want the system to do for whatever the purpose of that system. For instance, a system like Amazon or Target.com or some kind of an e-commerce system like that, I'm assuming is all hand-built and customized from the ground up year after year after year to perform the tasks of what they specifically need to do for their business model, their business goals, and the user needs, right? I understand that. So for that kind of opinion, okay, yeah, WordPress is not the solution for a big e-commerce, something like that. But what WordPress is extremely good for is a website like what you're seeing here, right? My school website is built using WordPress. So the misconception that I think people have about WordPress, and even when I've talked to clients, oh, WordPress is just a blogging something or other. So they think WordPress is along the lines of something like Blogger, right? Who owns, does Google own Blogger now? Yeah, right? Like Stani uses Blogger still, doesn't she? Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of people think that WordPress is, are you having trouble joining it? It's not for achievement, it's for edification. Is that, well, you might want to rip that one down because that's old. Dwayne, everybody is going to be our kid. Hey, Dwayne. Yeah. Yeah, you do. So a lot of people have the misconception that, you know, WordPress is just for blogging, and that WordPress, the only thing that WordPress is good for is, you know, you sign up on WordPress.com to have a blog that you're basically just doing plug and play, dragging in widgets and dragging in plugins and using pre-existing themes that are approved, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of like Squarespace or something along the lines of that. So my answer to that is, well, yeah, WordPress has that capability, right? To then have you set up a blog on WordPress.com. You can even buy a URL, and you're not allowed to touch the code if you are on WordPress.com. Okay, that's only one part of it. Okay, the other part of it is, and I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but if I go to my what is WordPress, oops, let's open a new tab. What is WordPress lecture, right? WordPress then, so you have WordPress.com and you have WordPress.org. WordPress.org is where you can actually download WordPress as its own application. So WordPress is all built using PHP and MySQL, right? And you can download it as its own application. You can upload it to your server, and then you can customly build your own theme. Okay, so for instance, let's also take a look at Did anybody notice that I redesigned my homepage over the spring break? I got this done right before I started throwing up. I got all of this Thursday, right? And then Thursday, I got really sick. And then didn't update my schedule. So I did do something over the break, right? This then is my business site here. And what I am attempting to do, or what I wanted to do to start off with was, if you had ever looked at the graphics in my site, back a while ago, I had 3 background images in my header and in my footer. So, the prop works could slide. But what I did now was, these crop marks and the registration are scalable vector graphics, SVG files. So since SVG files are starting to become commonplace, does anybody know what SVG files are? Who took my tech class last quarter, before, right? When we started talking about SVGs. So I converted this logo to being an SVG, and all the icons are SVG, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What WordPress is really good for, what I think it's really good for, is business brochureware type sites of this magnitude, right? That have some custom functionality, but are basically, marketing websites that then take in emails and have, some functionality like a calendar, maybe a bare bones, low scale, small scale shopping cart of some sort, right? But some kind of a site that then you are not always having to hand put in information, right? So meaning that what you can do with WordPress, so let's take these little service widget things, for example. What's actually happening here is, in this custom theme that I have written then, so if we go and take a look at the github.com, front dash page, and we take a look at this part of the code here that I'm saying start services loop. What's actually happening here is I am querying the post object. So one good fundamental thing to remember in WordPress, and this hopefully will unlock a lot of doors to you. Everything, and I mean everything in WordPress is a post object. Every page, every posting, every image, right, is a post object. Those post objects have properties, like a title, like a date, like a headline, an excerpt, so on and so forth. So there's not anything that you can't dig into WordPress and say, query these, right? So let's say query pages that are the children of page 185. Okay? So page number 185 is my services page. Again, the services page is a post object. Its number is 185. Okay? How many of you, well, let's say it like this. This class, the prerequisite, one of the prerequisites for this class is the ITC 240 class. Right? Everybody's taken ITC 240? Or if you haven't, PHP programming. and you know a little bit about databases. Okay, so when you've put together a database, right, everything has a number, right? Okay, so this post object, the services page, its identification number is 185. So for all children of 185, get the ID, right? Get the link to that page, that child page. Get the title of that child page. Get the title again. Add services after the title. Get the excerpt, so on and so forth, right? So notice this right here again. So ID, services excerpt, ID. So for all these children, put things in an article tag. Right? And in this one, also get the ID. So I can say services excerpt by the number. So if we inspect this then, services excerpt 14, services excerpt 15, 780, 2471. So again, each one of these represents usability research services as a page. Again, it's a post object with an ID number. Post object has an ID number, so on and so forth, right? So basically what I'm doing then is in this services thing, I'm saying, go take a look and see what subpages there are in the services page. Give me the headline, add services on it. Give me the excerpt, right, which is a handcrafted summary. Who's taken my writing for the web class? Right? Remember the meta descriptions and stuff? Okay. Your handcrafted summary, your meta description. The title, add services again, and a link, right? And then based off of, so present all that information, and then if I have said services excerpt number 15, 780, 2471, then how those icons get thrown in there. Hold on. So for that A tag then, I'm saying content.home article services excerpt 2471 H3 A tag. Use that background image for that box right there. Okay, Dwayne, what was your?
The YouTube screen is fuzzy, so if people watch a YouTube video, they actually can't.
Whatever, that's fine. Screw the people that aren't here watching YouTube. So basically, what I'm showing you is, if you have the concept of, oh shit, I think it's an object-oriented programming. I know that objects have properties. You mean, I can go into the WordPress box and pull out any object I want and its properties, or a group of them, and order them however I want to. Oh. That's not like Blogger. Meaning, right? There isn't any custom application that you cannot create, right? So, for instance, if we go back to the GitHub, and we look at my school one, if we take a look at my functions file, Get my title tag. If we're on the front page, do this. If we're in a page or a single, do that. For everything else, do that. If there's a parent page, do this. Get my meta description, right? If we're in a page or a single, get the excerpt. For everything else, get the author meta. Get my main menu. Oh, wow, that's a lot. Get my submenu. So on and so forth. So add flex slider. If there are images uploaded to the page, start, how many of you use flex slider? Okay. Or some other kind of slider where you know that jQuery looks for the classes to then hook in and do some magic, right? So if there are images attached to a posting, great. Start the flex slider markup. For each one of those attachments, go get them, put them in list items, so on and so forth, right? So that to me is, yeah, if a hardcore programmer says, yeah, but you know, you didn't build this yourself or it's not custom, yeah, I get that. Great, that's not the purpose of WordPress. The purpose of WordPress is to have an open source framework platform for brochureware, moderate functionality type websites, right? That you can then go in and get the objects and display them. You can also then build in your own plugins, right? You can access the WordPress database, add in your own tables, and put in your own information in those tables. So you can do whatever you want. You can snap in whatever you want by writing your own code, right? So the misnomer that a lot of people have about WordPress is, oh, you're just restricted to their out-of-the-box stuff, right? How many of you have ever sort of thought that? Anybody? Yeah. Up until now, or did that? But when you first heard of WordPress, right? Yeah. And that's what a lot of people think, is WordPress is kind of like Squarespace. It's locked down. And what I know about Squarespace, can you write your own code to Squarespace? I don't know. I don't want to say you can or can't, because I don't know that much about Squarespace. But yeah, it's, if you are then putting WordPress on your own server, it's all PHP and MySQL, right? And again, if you understand that everything is a post object, there's not anything you can't go in and retrieve and present a certain way, right? So once I really, like I said, what really opened a lot of doors to me was, and here's how a lot of the doors opened. A long time ago, I used a plugin to go grab case studies out of my blog and present them into my services pages. Okay? And you do that by writing a plugin or using a plugin that then uses shortcode. Does anybody know what shortcode is? We'll get to know shortcode. But basically, you put shortcode in the editing pane, right? And so I found this plugin that would allow me to go get things out of the blog and present it into a page like this. But it only did about 90% of what I wanted to do. What I had to do was I had to go edit the plugin because the plugin wouldn't allow me to put a link around the title or around an image or put in read more link. So what did I have to do? I had to go into the plugin, put in an anchor tag, and go get the permalink for the page, right? And if you're not understanding the lingo that I'm using right now, don't worry, just go, right? So I basically edited a plugin that if it ever updates or I ever updated it, I'd have to go do it again. It would break. So I thought to myself, well, it can't be that hard to go write it myself, right? And so again, this is where I learned that again, I wanted a title, an excerpt, an image, and a link for posting. So I set up then those variables with the values of those variables. And for each one of these, or there was only one of it. So for that case study, then I wrote out some HTML that then got the link, the title, the image, and whatever. So from lines 173 to 192 with spaces, I replaced a pretty beefy plugin that this did 100% of what I wanted it to do, whereas the plugin only did about 90% of what I wanted to do. And when I realized that, that's when I realized, holy shit, everything is a post object. What? I can go get anything and present anything how I want to. And so I took it upon myself to, instead of writing plugins, start writing my own functions, right? Like getting the images, displaying as a flex slider, those services thing, child pages, so on and so forth. So if you ever look at my functions file, a lot of my functions look very similar. For these things, go get the image, the title, the whatever, the whatever, the whatever, right? And display it like this, okay? So that really, to me, explaining just that thing, that everything is a post object and there's not a function you can't write to pull things out the way you want to, that's what WordPress really has going for, right? So instead of, how many of you, when you were building your Web 200 projects or your Web 120 projects and hand-coding all the content in there, this sucks, right? Like all the text and whatnot. I gotta do that again, right? So think of if you had, how many guesses on how many pages I have in my school site? Pages and postings. How many? So let's say you have a website that has 294 pages and 430 posts. You can hand code all that? No, you're not. That's where you are then going to for instance, let's do it right now. If I went to edit this page, this looks like a Word document for this page. Monday, Wednesday, 1 p.m. to 2:50 p.m. and 31:51, spring 2017. I really didn't edit it over the weekend, so I had a demo to show you. That's what I did. Huh? This? It's still workforce education preparatory. We're just not in Bitka anymore. So if I update that then, now it's changed, right? So your text like that, once you get things all set up, then, especially if you're writing a blog post, or you're writing, or you're writing lectures, then you want to have an environment that is kind of like a word processing, right? So, you know, you can then add pages, they'll show up in the navigation, you know, it depends on how you set it up and whatnot. But that's what we're here to learn. Okay, so what this class is and what this class is not. Course description. This course gives an overview of the basic principles and practices of professional website design and development while focusing on content management and custom theme creation. Custom theme creation. Custom theme creation. Using the open source technology of WordPress. Okay. So the students will design and develop a website for a small to medium-sized business or their own portfolio site while focusing on the development principles associated with the use of WordPress. So here's basically what you need to do in this class. How many of you have taken Web 200? How many of you have taken Web 120? So all of you have taken either Web 200 or Web 120. And I know damn well, because I teach one of those classes, that you had a final project in that class, right? So here's what you're going to do. You are going to take your final project from either Web 120 or Web 200, or make up a new project. So let me just give you a for example. So here's what I'm going to do with you guys in this class. So for my HCD 532 class up at the University of Washington, we built a prototype together to design specification kind of looks like your Web 200 or Web 120 project, correct? Okay, so what you're going to do then is you're going to take this project and recreate templates. So if you were in Web 200 or Web 120, you guys did your final project where you did includes and that kind of stuff, right? So you're going to have to reverse engineer templates. How might you do that? Even better. I have an even better way. It's going to blow it. It's going to blow your fucking mind. So if, right, right. So if, where is it? So if this is my final project, right, and it says index.php, and if I looked at the GitHub files, oops, why don't I just do this? So if we went here and looked at the GitHub files, right, it's all broken into includes and whatnot. So basically what you can do then to get your home page and your main page templates, yep, view page source. And this is a legit copy and paste way to, this is where I support copying and pasting, right? There's your homepage template. Copy it into a homepage file, right? Here's your main page template, view page source. Copy that, put it into a main, right? And then if you had a style sheet, just take that style sheet, and in mine, I had a flex slider style sheet, and just kind of recreate those templates as its own little ball of wax, right? Because what we are going to slowly but surely do is then take those templates and just like in Web 120 or Web 200, where you started breaking things into includes and putting in some conditional stuff like that, right? We are then going to make a WordPress site out of it, right? So if we then went and viewed code for ProtoSite, here are all the WordPress related files. You can see here's my main HTML, my home HTML. So you can just have one GitHub repository, right, that you just use. You don't have to break it into templates and ProtoSite. When you're uploading, so you're going to have to upload stuff to GitHub. How many of you have ever used, how many of you have used GitHub? How many of you have not used GitHub? Okay. Go to GitHub, set up an account for yourself, and then we will show you how to make things into a repository and that kind of stuff. Note to self, only upload your theme to GitHub. Do not upload all of WordPress files to GitHub. Upload only your theme to GitHub, okay? But we are then going to so let's say it like this. Meta, name, description, content, echo, strict tags, get the excerpt. Well, I don't even need to use the strict tags function there. Style sheet, blog info, style sheet, URL. So what we are going to do is instead of doing it the way we did it, who was in my Web 200 class and I showed you guys how to do it in includes and that kind of stuff. So instead of doing it that way, we're going to do it in WordPress, right? So those of you that were in Web 210 that were wondering what the developers were doing in Web 210, this is what they were doing, right? So they were basically using the WordPress framework to then, if you're going to call your style sheet, then you use the function blog info style sheet URL, which then will populate this href with the style sheet URL from your theme. If you want to go into the template directory, that then you go into the theme folder and grab another style sheet, you say blog info template directory. So what we're going to be doing is you're just going to be getting to know a lot of the WordPress functions, right? So blog info is a WordPress written function that then has its own arguments, right? So we're going to be doing a lot of this. All right, so here's the function. Here's how you pass arguments through it. Here are the arguments that you can pass through it and what it does. So style sheet directory. Add argument. will display the style sheet URL, right? The one that actually says style.css. Okay? So this is what working with a framework. How many of you have ever worked with a framework? How many of you use jQuery? Working with a framework, right? So remember in Web200, slide toggle. Well, slide toggle is a function that the authors of jQuery wrote. That if you look at the slide toggle function in the jQuery file, it has directions to make it do whatever slide toggle does. That's all we're doing here. WordPress is given directions and built its own framework. It has its own WordPress authored functions that have arguments and parameters that you can pass arguments through, right? So if we go back to then stuff like this, get children. Well, get children is a WordPress authored function that basically gets children of any post object, whether it's an image, whether it's pages or postings, right? So if a page is a post object and that page has subpages, those subpages are children of that post object, that parent page, right? So for each one of those, then, as an array, so how WordPress has set up a lot of their parameter argument schemas, right, is they've set up an array. Has anybody ever heard the term rekeying an array? Right? So an array that might be set up as the way it's set up, right? Well, you can then say for this key, then have a different value. That's what I understand is rekeying an array. Okay. You're basically changing the values of the way they have it set up. So we can then go and grab whatever keys and give them whatever values as an associative array. Right? So that's also one of the ways that WordPress functions is when you're passing arguments through functions is basically, let's say it like this. For any one of these functions, you can basically use the Google machine and you will end up on WordPress's codex, right? That will then say something like this. Here's the get children function. Here are the arguments, right? So here are the arguments. The default is post parent, type, number, post status, 0, any, et cetera, et cetera. So if you can, how many of you can understand this? Read it, right? So there's not anything in Encyclopedia WordPress that you can't go in, and if you understand PHP programming, and you understand that everything is an object and objects have properties, you can't go in and modify them. Right? Does that make sense? So yeah, so what we're going to do in this class then is you are going to install WordPress, and slowly but surely we are going to add content to it and a couple of plugins and content and pages, and postings and stuff. And you are going to be building a predetermined WordPress site, meaning you are going to build along with the exercises that I'm going to teach you in this class. But all the exercises in this class, I have the luxury of, I teach the 210 class as well. And all of the exercises that I do in this class are written through the lens of what you will need to do as a developer in 210, right? So this is the Let's Learn WordPress class, and 210 is the Advanced WordPress class with a project, right? So what you need in terms of a template system is for your home page, you need a place to put a flex slider. We're going to put flex slider on your home page. You are going to need spots on your home page to put a couple of 2 or 3, 4 widgets in there, right? I don't care if they're stacked. I don't care if they go right to left. I don't care, right? For your main page structure, you need to have a content area where we're going to put text. You need to have a sidebar area where we are going to put sub-navigation items, a quote, and plugin or widgets, okay? So those are basically your basic requirements. Does that make sense? So how many of you have your Web 120 or Web 200 projects and you're thinking to yourself, oh, I hate those, but I'm going to use them anyway? No? If you want to come up with something new, that's up to you. You can come up with something new, but I've seen a lot of your Web 200 projects. I know they were just fine. So, right, use your Web 200 project if you want, right? You might modify it for this class, you know what I mean? So, but that's okay, because it's just a prototype. You know, don't think to yourself, oh my God, I have to do this for a client, because in this class, we're not doing a damn thing for the client, right? This is not a client class. This is not a client class. This is not a client class. This is, I need something to use to learn WordPress, and we need to build a custom theme, of which I built the template system. In other words, if you know me, I'm big on you guys writing your own damn code. If I catch you copying and pasting my WordPress functions, don't do it. I've commented my stuff. I know what my stuff looks like. I know, so here's the thing, how I know how people are copying and pasting my stuff. Let's say it like this. We can all write out the same paragraph, but I know my handwriting and I'll know your handwriting. Even if we have the same identical information, right? I will know just by the spaces involved and stuff whether you copied and pasted my stuff or not. It's tempting, I know, right? But, and what I mean is we're going through these lectures, you will see that I have a lot of this stuff in here. But then I have commented stuff out. Don't go copying and pasting that stuff out of those. That's just there for you to see it. Right? Actually type out all that stuff. Okay? All right, getting back to this. So this class will provide the students with a case study and website portfolio piece to present to potential employers. Upon successful completion of the Web 170 class, you should know how to install and set up WordPress, add and manage content, use, customize, create WordPress themes, use customized WordPress functions and loops, install and utilize WordPress plugins and widgets, have a WordPress website of your very own. Friends. These are the 2 books that I have required. If you don't get them, you should be fine, but I would still recommend that you get them and read them. Okay. This one goes through a lot of the admin, dashboard functionality, what is WordPress, the whole application. Right? This one goes through how do you actually develop a theme. Okay, so if we look at my let's actually close. I get excited and I open a whole bunch of tabs. You guys know this. So if we look at the schedule, I have what chapters to read of the book. I'm not going to quiz you out of the book. I probably should. Right? No? You sure? Yeah. Sometimes I think I should use quizzes. I'm not going to take a vote. Let's just say I should, and maybe someday I will. Not this quarter, right? I just want you guys to learn it and do projects. So week by week, we are going to be going through a set of lecture sizes that you can find here, right? So we will be, let's say it like this, coding this together, kind of, right? Meaning, I am going to be building this, my prototype, according to my exercises, all the way through the quarter. If you are able to keep up during class and do it along with me, great. If you are not, that's what the videos are for, right? I record the lectures. So basically, the recordings are what we're doing in class, and the lectures are exactly what you have to do on your assignments, right? So if you are unable to keep up in class, don't feel bad about it, because I'm going to have to go relatively fast. You can then watch the videos and go along with the videos and pause and type and play and pause and type and play and pause. Right? So, for instance, who was in Web 200 and watched my let's do some includes and that kind of stuff, right? And how many of you watched that video and went back and then did it for your site, right? That's what we're doing all quarter long in this class. So hopefully it's effective. I think it works well. So yeah, so all of these we will be going through. I have access to the color printer now from my office. So every now and again, I'll be like, oh shit, what are we supposed to be doing? Oh, okay. Because I'll go off and get, you guys know me, I sort of stick to my script. Sometimes I go off my script. Okay, I always go off my script. It's usually still relevant. So yeah, by the end of the class, you should have a WordPress site that, yeah, you have all the functionality that we've done in this class, but that should really, how many of you are going to take Web 210 over the summer or in the fall? Right? Some of you will. Okay. Kristen, you're going to be taking it. Huh? That's 202. I'm talking about the 210 class, the one where we give you a client, a nonprofit client, set you in a team, because you told me you love team classes. Don't worry, I'll put you in. Don't. Why? What do you want to say about Dan while we're recording, Kristen? I know, he's your little brother, and it's awesome. So, yeah, so that being said, how am I going to grade in this class? This is basically what I do. Who should I pick on? Let's go to Anna. So here is on the staging area. And you can set up your template system and view the code and repository and view the prototype however you want to. As long as I have a link to your repository and your prototype, I'm fine, right? So here is then her repository that she started out with home.html, main.html, and her style.css, and then we built along the way. So every week when things are going to be due, you're going to have everything posted to your GitHub. Okay? And on Wednesday, I will show you how to make a GitHub repository if you don't know, and upload to your GitHub repository, etc. Okay. So does that make sense? Right? So I am just going to be going to your GitHub and looking at your code, and I will leave a comment of Mike was here. And that's how you know that I was there and graded you. Sometimes I'll tell you what I did. Sometimes I'll leave a comment on what you did incorrect, if you did something incorrect. Sometimes I'll just flat out harass you. Maybe I'll post memes and you get that. You never know. It'll be, we'll see what happens, Kristen. So yeah, so basically what you need to do for today, right, is if you, how many of you have GitHub accounts, right? If you don't have a GitHub account, set one up. We're going to be using it. Yeah, Dwayne. Cool. Cool. So yeah, that's how I'm going to be grading you. So no printing out anything for Mike, no posting links on my site except for the link to your client staging area, right? Because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up everybody in a list and link to your client staging. So any questions so far? Does this look like, oh yeah, that's about what I thought we were going to do in this class. Let's see if I have anything else to talk about. Suggested text, programming, PHP. Required materials. I should put your GitHub account in there. You are going to have to have your website hosted somewhere. Edison will not work for you because Edison does not have database capabilities. Are they even still running Zephyr around this joint?
I think they are, but yeah, for PHP 2 last quarter,
Yeah. Yeah. So how many of you already have a DreamHost account? Good. Right? If you do not have a server account, we recommend DreamHost because they have the educational discount, right? So, and that'll make the training a lot easier because I'm going to go into my DreamHost panel and show you how to set up a database and stuff like that. So, code of ethics. Oh wait, evaluation methods, right? So assignments will create an overall class project to be presented. I need to get rid of that. We're not going to present. There's nothing really to present. Look, I did what Mike told me to do. Look, I did what Mike told me to do. Look, I also did what Mike told me to do. Right? I mean, it's not, like I said, this is not a creative class. This is a simulation environment type things, right? That hopefully at the end of this, things make sense to you and you can get into, like I said, I can't stress enough that this WEB170 class, I wrote the way I wrote specifically so when you get into Web210, you know what the fuck you're doing and you can do your Web210 project without any hassle. Right? And so if you do get into Web210 and you haven't had WordPress, then at the end of the quarter, you won't need on the evaluation. They should make WordPress a prerequisite to that. We still let people into the 210 class that haven't had WordPress if they're awesome designers because they can contribute awesome designs to the team. Right? So, assignments require critical thinking, problem-solving skills, due according to class schedule, responsible assignment information on assignment pages, also responsible for assignment information in the class, marked down 25% for each student that you're late. Again, if we're walking down the hallway and you want to ask me when something is due, I'm going to have to pull out my phone to check the calendar, so you should pull out yours and check it yourself, right? Code of ethics. All downloads provided by the site are the intellectual property of the respected authors and are available for download. Available, for example, in resources purpose only. Students are expected to create their own design, produce their own work, and write their own code. Turning in downloaded and copied and/or copied and pasted code as your own assignment work is considered to be plagiarism. I'm a tough ass on that. Right? And is subject to disciplinary action by the college. Student conduct, let's be nice to each other, right? If you need accommodations because the ADA laws, disability support services, please get the necessary paperwork from room 1112 and present them to me with accommodations. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so Dwayne was in 200 last quarter and did his project in WordPress. And yeah, it worked out for you, did it? There were some spots where you got, you know. Yeah. Well, that's why you're here. Yeah. WordPress powers 25% of the internet, you know? And like I said, for all the haters of WordPress, you know what? Like I said, I understand the people that hate WordPress that are hardcore developers, back-end developers. Sure, they're working on types of projects that WordPress is not good for. That's like choosing the right building materials to build the right project, right? You're going to use stone and brick in one instance and wood in another instance. You're going to choose the right materials for the job. But I think WordPress is the perfect building material, the perfect framework for your basic business brochureware, some functionality type websites, man. It doesn't, like I said, once I discovered that everything is a post object and there's not anything you can't do, you know? And even like stuff like this, right? Where I have my latest photos, right? And my photos here that are uploaded to an album in Flickr. I wrote a function that accessed Flickr's API and presents those into my website using shortcode. Right? So basically, what you can do with shortcode is you add shortcode This is shortcode right here. So I can say, my Flickr set ID, go get this ID, that album in Flickr, and once you get that ID, present it like that. So there's really nothing that you can't snap in to the WordPress framework as well, by either just writing a custom function in your functions file or by actually writing your own custom plugins. So, all right, any questions? Really? No questions? It's all that clear? Does it look like you might learn something in this class? Might have a little fun? You can? Good, good, good. Kristen? Yeah. Fine. Yeah, so the prerequisite for PHP in this class is 240. We will discuss programming concepts, conditional statements for each loops. And basically, we're going to be using conditional statements and for each loops in this class. And also variable and value sets, right? So as long as you understand that concept, right? And or, like I said, there will be the places where we are using arrays to pass arguments through a function. So have you ever written a associative array? Yes. So you're going to be writing lots of them here. So you will get better. In other words, I'm typing out what Mike is typing out. With going in this direction a little bit, in that direction, and kind of, right? But this is largely a simulation class. I don't know how else to really do it other than, here's how we build this. Let's build it together. You use your templates in your project, and I'll use mine, and you build your birdhouse, and I'll build my birdhouse. They're going to look different, but they're going to function the same, right? And so, yeah, hopefully you will. How many of you feel like that? You're like, PHP programming, I'm a little, right? Yeah, that's. The key thing is that you've been exposed to PHP. You have been introduced to concepts like, well, what is PHP? How do you write a conditional if-else statement? How do you write a for each loop, right? How you use variables and values. How can you concatenate the variable within a string like this? In other words, Kristen, does this make sense to you? Here's a variable, right? What does the dot equals mean? close. So if I used open here and I said dot equals, I am starting to write out this markup. If I then say thumbs dot equals, the dot equals appends at the end here. So it's kind of like concatenation. I don't know if they actually, do they actually call this concatenation? They do? Great, fine. I'll go with that. See, I'm all self-taught in programming, in PHP, so I don't know like all the, I know what it does, that kind of stuff, but some definitions are still like, you guys still have shit to teach me, right? So when we get here, thumbs, let's add more HTML. So if we're going to then use a variable to write something into this HTML, then we close it out and use concatenation and open it up again. So did you understand what I just said there? Then you're fine. Yeah. Yeah, this will, what I like about WordPress like this is that WordPress has made me understand programming concepts much better than I used to because I am using another framework. I'm not bogged down by having to write a whole bunch of kind of extraneous shit that I don't sort of understand, whatever. It really is just using puzzle pieces that are already pre-existing and using programming conditional structures, programming logic, to take those puzzle pieces and arrangements into an output that I want, right? And so, yeah, this has really helped my programming concepts over the last however many years I've been doing it, right? So I think it'll help just root programming concepts, because you have a whole bunch of puzzle pieces that we give you that then you're going to arrange into a program using pre-existing. So you're not worried about building puzzle pieces, right? You're just kind of arranging them for something. And like I said, that has really helped me just focus on programming fundamentals. And now I can go and just write all that stuff off the top of my head, where I didn't used to be able to 5, 6 years ago. Does that make sense? So yeah, if you are fresh out of 240 and you sort of remember what you learned in 240, this is going to help reinforce what you learned in 240. Because 240 is basically now the way they're doing it is programming fundamentals with a little bit of database stuff, right?
It's basically programming fundamentals with a little bit of database.
Yeah.
And if people have questions about PHP,
Yeah.
PHP.net
Yeah.
is sort of the same thing as the WordPress codex.
Yeah.
Everything is really elegantly written. There's examples of user contribution. PHP is very big in user contribution. They want people to contribute. So there's basically an online encyclopedia, and it isn't obscure or written like programming is. So if you want to learn more about, like, say, the dot equals, you can just go in and string operators.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Now I learned what they call that concatenation.
No,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, all I know is that, you know, when you're doing an output, right? You can. Oh, I did it in 3 things. What I could have done is put output, 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 and then return output, and just add on to the output. You know, so.
So according to the PHP overlords, dot is a concatenation operator. Dot equals is the concatenating assignment operator, which appends the argument on the right side to the argument on the left side.
Yeah. So yeah, we're all correct. Ish, you know. Yeah. So, but yeah, you know, like I said, once I started getting into my functions file, and like I said, the epiphany that I had, oh, everything is a post object. Oh, great. Now that I know that, then I can start going to programming stuff. And like I said, you know, back 5, 6 years ago when I started doing that, my programming was relatively rusty, right? And I had taught this class once in 2009. I had handed off because I was part-time units. But then over the years, I really started getting into my functions file. Really, like I said, I can now just write all this shit off the top of my head without having to, you know. But I still need a resource, right? But yeah, and then I started teaching this class again a couple years ago, and teaching like that. All right, any other questions? Hopefully this looks fun. How many of you have ad slips that need me to sign? All right, I'm going to turn off the recording here. How should we close this one out? Who's not here that's supposed to be? Well, Manitasha. Let's talk about an assignment now that Manitasha will miss because she's not here.